think that we're on. We are on. People are beginning to join us. So let's wait for a few of folks to start joining us. But it's really good to be able to see the two of you gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedules to be with us here.
Yes, sir. It is absolutely
Rupert.
our pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Rupert, you look like you're in somewhere exotic, somewhere in the West Coast.
I know. I tell you, it was prayers answered somewhere, somehow.
So how were you able to make it all the way from Apopka all the way to San Francisco, man, overnight? That's crazy.
No, with all the planes shutting down, that was a miracle. I guess I got my wings in advance.
Mercy. All right, but we'll give it a few more moments here as people gather. We have a group of people gathering right now, and usually it takes a few moments, but it's really going to be good to be able to talk and to enjoy our time together. Let me just check on something quickly here. Make sure that we share this in some of the other platforms that we have. Make sure that people can watch everywhere. Well, I think that we're ready to go at it. Welcome, everyone. It's so good that you're here. And welcome to the North American Division Ministerial Association Facebook Live special. And this is something that we are doing in order to help each other out and in order to make sure that we're sane and that we're ministering well in our communities. That's why we have called this program Leading Through the Pandemic. And today I am honored to spend some special time here, a great time with my colleagues from the Southeastern Conference in Florida. And I'm talking about none other than the King James, all right? That is James Doggette Sr. and also Rupert Bushner. They are the co-pastors at the well-known Patmos Chapel Adventist Church, all the way in Apopka, Florida. How are you, gentlemen? How are you doing today?
Yes, sir. Well, this is Doggette talking, and I tell you what, I'm doing real well. Been hanging out with my wife all day long, so I have a smile on my face, and I'm glad to be with you on this evening.
Man, so
I
awesome.
feel the same. I feel the same way. Have an exciting time being at home. Just glad to hang out again, as Dr. Doggett mentioned, with the wife. We was getting some sunshine and some water and some walking. Yes.
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Well, you know, gentlemen, you are doing some amazing things out in your out in your church in Apopka. First of all, tell me a little bit about the building. I know that you recently acquired an awesome building, that you're doing some great things with it. Too bad that now we're going through this situation, but I know that you're working and you have some great things in store. What's going on? Talk to me.
Hey, Dr. Bushner, why don't you share that? I get so excited, I talk way too fast. So you at least lead them into it, then I'll join you down the road.
Well, you know, I was going to pass it to you and just let you go ahead and just talk about it, and then I'll let you introduce it. I'll get started.
Okay. No problem. Let me do it then.
Yes, sir. I prefer. I'll stand down, cease and desist.
Yes, sir.
I love the kindness. I love the kindness. This is awesome. Come on.
It's sickening, isn't it?
Talk to me, man.
Listen, we're excited. We did receive a tremendous blessing from God, and we were able to buy a building. It was an athletic complex that was built in 2015, so it's fairly new, over 100,000 square feet. Has a gymnasium in it that has 3 college-sized basketball courts, 6 volleyball courts. It's also used for indoor soccer. We have a cafe/restaurant that's fully equipped, and we service a lot of people in there. There is a karate dojo. There is a gymnastics gymnasium. There's a large area that we're converting into a worship space that will seat 1,200. We're going to have a suite of offices in there, and just a lot of ministry is going to take place. We call it the Well Activity Center, and we have the Patmos Chapel Worship Center inside of the Well. It's a gathering place where we get a chance to meet with a lot of people we would not otherwise have a chance to connect with. And we are excited about it. In fact, we were scheduled. This is ironic, but I also think it is part of God's big plan. We were supposed to have our grand opening for our worship services on the 14th of this month.
Oh my
and
goodness.
Of course, the night before we got word that we can't have a large assembly. So we immediately had to kick into the creative mode. But we have a building now that is amazing, and it is just designed to have interaction with people who are not part of our household of faith, so that we could help lead them to know the God that we love so much.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And we know that somehow God is going to make this work in a very special way for your community. That is awesome. Rupert, anything that you'd like to add to that, man?
Well, I just wanted to say, when he said the well, it was incredible because he and I were talking, and the well came up because Jesus met the woman at the well. And the acronym that we've come up with for well means where everyone lives life, where everyone lives life. So actually, we are, by the grace of God, situated like in the crossroads on the day of Pentecost, where they all came together, where people come already. So the well is actually a place where people are already coming. We were just blessed to acquire the building. So now we don't have to say, come to our church. We can just say, we're here as they come, we're here for them. So it's an incredible thing. And when they come to get regular water, we have the living water, which is Jesus Christ.
Hey.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Have
sir.
mercy, have mercy. I almost feel a sermon coming up. All right.
Yes,
You know, James, we recently had Rupert at the e-huddle, and
Right.
and he came and he had time to talk about the well, and he had time to preach. We gave him 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes he preached and talked about the well. You know, so he represented you well, man.
I can imagine. You know, you probably didn't know it, but he preaches all the time. I've heard him order veggie burgers, and it sounds like he's preaching when he orders veggie burgers. It's just what he is. He's a natural preacher.
Mercy, mercy. Hey, quickly, next question here. What are you guys doing to stay sane? You know, this whole thing all of a sudden changed all of our lives. We're having to stay home more than we like to, even though it's a good thing, you know, especially for some of us who travel a lot. And so we have to stay home. Ministry is different. Things have changed. So what are you guys doing to stay sane, mentally fit? What's going on? Talk to us. And lots of pastors are listening to us and will be listening and watching this. So give them some good advice. What are you doing?
Well, for me, go ahead.
Group, you got it?
Well, I was just going to say, for me personally, what we're doing now, because the wife is also at home, working from home, it allows us now to have a game plan. We have devotion.
Hey, Rupert, is she happy? Is she happy that you're home all the time now?
She's happy. I'm happy. She's happy. The whole house is happy. We all happy.
I would love to ask her that question, but hey, keep going, man. Keep going.
Hey, now I can get a witness now. She'll testify.
All right.
But no, we having an awesome time together. In fact, our goal, we said we're going to walk in the morning, we're going to walk in the evening, and there's a lovely place here in Florida at the Embassy Suite called the Crane's Roost. It's a beautiful walk around a lake, and so we walking during the day, we're walking in the evening, and then the beautiful thing about it is we're able to spend time together, and we're just having a great time together with the family, playing games, walking, and being. The quarantine almost seemed like it's a blessing, obviously, but we're enjoying ourselves together as a family. And then the beautiful thing is, as the well, you can't go to any gyms. And when I finish this conference, this Zoom, I'm able to go to the well. We got some weights there, so I was gonna go up there and hit me a few weights because we own the building. Amen.
You go to the well by yourself, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
I saw you the other day in person, and you have some good muscles there, man. So hey, by all means, I can tell that you have a place where you work out.
Yes, sir.
Mercy, man. You know, I want to be like you when I grow up. So James, what are you doing? What's going on at home?
Yeah, I second what Rupert had said about being able to spend time with the wife. It's been great to be able to be here at home with her. She also is a teacher, a college professor, and their classes, of course, have been canceled. The on-site classes, so she's here at the house as well. I have to throw this in though. Not only am I enjoying spending time with the wife, I cut away from the game table to come over here. My wife and I were playing some games, and things are going well. I was winning, so I feel really, really good. And she might deny that, but we're having a good time, getting to know each other better, reconnecting, spending time. Also, we made a commitment today that we're going to start doing our devotions a little bit more often together, because time does allow that now, and our schedules will work. But here's the one thing I have to say that has been a little bit of a problem, and I'm still working through it. I'm used to getting up early, real early, and hustling all day long with not enough time to do brain work, etc. And I've been feeling guilty these last few days that I'm not out there hitting the streets. And to be able to spend some time working on the brain probably is something I needed to do, but I feel a little guilty doing it still. For 2 years, we've been hustling on the purchase of this building and managing the affairs of the church. And so now to be in a different space is not as easy as I thought it would be. So I'm starting to ease into this more relaxed lifestyle.
I'm feeling the same way, you know, always on the road, always traveling, flying a lot, preaching everywhere, and all of a sudden you're home. You know, it's a great thing because you're able to spend time with the kids and your wife, but at the same time, you miss some of the things that you're used to doing on a regular basis. So it's taking a little bit of a toll and a lot of readapting. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Bushner, I know just like my schedule, his schedule is just as full, if not more full. And we had a lot of appointments we were supposed to take. I was supposed to be in Los Angeles and New York and other places preaching, and not doing it. It's an adjustment. It's an adjustment, and it's probably a good one. Maybe it's possible sometimes preachers get too busy and need to back away and spend a little bit more quiet time. And right now we have a chance to do that, and I do value it. But it's not easy to get into it and feel comfortable.
Well, one more question on this area. Is it okay or is it selfish for the pastors to take care of themselves? Because at times, you know, especially in moments like this, we feel that we need to be out there taking care of everybody and we forget about ourselves. What advice do you have for the thousands of pastors that are either watching right now or will watch this a little bit later? What advice do you have? Is it selfish for the caretaker to take care of himself or herself?
Well, I would take the example from the airlines when they say, when you get on the plane, they tell you about your seatbelt, but then they say if the cabin loses pressure, put your mask on first. Then you want to help the people around you. And I think that's important for you to actually put your mask on first, which simply says you need oxygen or you need life in you to give life to somebody else. So if you become depleted, wore out, wore down, then you're not able to minister to other people. So taking that time, in fact, Jesus said, come aside and rest a while. There was in his particular schedule for them to pull aside, pull back, let up, rest a while, be recharged so that you can go back into life more, on point and on target so that you can be focused. So I don't think we should feel guilty because I think the CDC has put these rules in place. The government are saying this. So we're in line with doing what we're doing, but it's a blessing at the same time because it allows us to come aside, like reconnect again. The time we're spending with our spouses, time we're spending with those around us is a time to refocus and to be able to recalibrate so that when this thing is over, I think we will be a little bit sharper than we were before we went in. So I think we've got to get ourselves together. And I think that's important for others to understand. And that is because everything wears out, rundown, and we've got to recharge and we've got to do something to stay on the cutting edge. And this time is a perfect opportunity. It is a blessing in disguise, really.
Okay, so let me just make sure that I got this. Self-care is not selfish. Is that okay?
Exactly. Right on
point.
Pastor.
Exactly. And if I might add to that, it's
Sure.
also a good time for our members to adjust their thinking a little bit, because sometimes they become far too dependent on the pastors. And if we're not careful, we're tempted to get somewhat of a God complex, and they'll be depending on us far too much. So at this particular time, it's a good time for us to remember that the word no, I can't right now. I'll pray for you, but I can't do all you're asking me to do in your situation. Those are some words and phrases that we need to become familiar with once again, and our people will have an opportunity to grow and become a bit stronger. There was a pastor, if I can throw this in, recently. I admire him a lot in the ministry that he has. He's not an Adventist pastor, but he's a very effective pastor at a church called the Real Life Church. And I've seen a lot of what they do there, and they really make a difference in the community at large. And that's really what I like. And I went there to visit recently, and I was surprised at the end of the service when the head deacon came to the microphone and made an announcement that the pastor was going on sabbatical for a whole year. The pastor then came on a video and said, listen, I want you to know my marriage is just fine. I haven't stolen any money. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm not on punishment, but I spoke with God about this, and I know that I need to back away from the work of ministry for a moment. I've been in it for so long. I know what I'm doing as pastor of this church, but I need to get familiar with my family again and get closer with God. So I'll be going to churches where they don't know me. I'm going to sit in and be ministered to. I'm going to take time because the board has allowed me to. I can take time now and just talk with God, walk out in the park and meditate and think and pray to get refueled. And he said, I'll be back in a year. Until then, I won't be answering your calls or anything else. I'm going to be getting tight with God and my family. And when I come back, I think you're going to like me even better. Well, that's something that I heard when he said that, because we can be effective ministers and lose out on some other areas that are equally important, as important. So I definitely believe self-care is a must, but it's difficult for pastors who are called on to do a lot.
All right. So, pastors, there you have it. Self-care is not selfish. It is important from two pastors who are doing a great job, but at the same time are taking time for themselves and for their families, especially during the pandemic. Now, let's move on to another area. Just a few days, I heard of a church where the pastor called and he said, guys, the CDC is ordering that we close down. So we're going to be closed for a few weeks. Let's see how long this lasts. Just wanted to let you know, see you in 3 weeks or see you in 2 weeks. Is that acceptable? Is the church closed down? Is the church still open? What's going on? Does the church still play a role in this time in which we're living through the pandemic? Help me out, colleagues.
Dr. Doggett?
Hey, no problem. I'll speak to that. Yes, the church plays a role. Absolutely. The church is the family of believers. It is the body of Christ on this earth. And while it might be true that this pandemic is causing us to rethink our methods of ministry, we're still called to minister, and we've got to find ways to do it. I'm quick to not condemn how others handle it. Different pastors and churches are handling it different ways, and I have to just trust that they're talking with God and making their best efforts to minister. But I know Dr. Bushner and I, when we saw that things could not operate as usual in our church realm, we immediately started praying that God would give us the attribute, a godly attribute that few people even recognize as a godly attribute, and that is creativity. Bible says in Genesis 1:1, in the beginning, God created. There's the first attribute of God, creativity, the ability to take what you have and even what doesn't exist and make something come into being that will work for the situation. God created. It's a godly attribute that we don't use nearly enough. And we started thinking, praying, talking about it, and we just found other ways to accomplish the same purposes. We figured you don't have to gather in order to accomplish the purposes of the church, especially during this time. So we just found creative ways to make it happen. I would suggest that pastors don't abandon the ship. Don't jump ship. Don't leave the cockpit with nobody there at the controls. Don't leave people on their own. Tell the passengers you're on your own. We've got to still steer this ship with God, of course, as our captain. We've got to be co-captain, co-pilot with him and still make something happen. The church has a bigger role in treacherous times like we're in now.
Okay, so I just want to make clear that I'm getting your point here. So the church, the building may be closed, but the church never closes, because wherever we are, that's where the church is. Are we on the same page?
Exactly.
You said that better than we can.
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
Oh, my goodness, no. Go ahead, Rupert.
Well, when you say that, see, the thing about the first century church, when they were persecuted, when persecution did arise, they had to do something differently. The Bible says they broke bread from house to house. They didn't have internet. They didn't have the ability to connect, but because they were the church, wherever they were connecting. Now, in the technology age in which we live, we have tools that can connect us in a way, even though we're not together. So that was a beautiful thing about being able to be creative. And that is, you can be together without being together. And that's technology. Like right now, the three of us, along with a host of others who are watching on Facebook Live and other platforms, we are together, but we're not together. And that's what technology allows you to do. And so I think, just like in Acts chapter 8, when persecution drove the church to leave Jerusalem and go to other parts of the world, they were now able to begin to share their testimony. And I think the coronavirus crisis has driven us personally to begin to look at creative ways to get the gospel out in ways that we may not have taken advantage of before. So this is where God is pressing, or God is allowing the church to use his creativity in a sense of, I could fix it. God said I could do something, but I gave you all brains. And in the last days, I'm gonna need individuals, leaders, men and women, boys and girls. And that's why he says, I'm looking to and fro through the earth to see who I can show myself strong through. So God is looking for available vessels by which he can utilize us to get the gospel out. And that's up to us to be creative. Just like the Bible was not verbally written, it's plenary written. We know that. However, he left it up to them to take his thoughts and put it in their words. God has left it up to us to take his gospel and get it to his people, even in a time of crisis.
All right, now let me ask you. So what do you guys come up with? Because you guys have done one of the most creative things that I heard throughout this, and I've been watching and I've been paying attention to everything that happens across North America. And when I heard about Patmos Chapel and what you guys were doing, I was like, whoa. So tell us about what you're doing and what you did yesterday, especially during your worship service. Talk to us, please. Yeah, you don't have to both talk at the same time. That's
well,
good.
Here
I go.
I'm going to push the ball personally, and I want to commend Dr. Doggette for his creativity. I am co-pastor with him. He shares with me and talks with me. And when he shared with me this concept, he got busy immediately with my full support and just saying, look, whatever it is, man, whatever I can do to help and support, let's do this. However, I would love for him to share how God put this thing on his heart and the way we did it. And I would say, I take our hats off to our technicians, the technology team that we have, but I also want to just commend my friend, Dr. James Doggette, for the creativity as well, for what the Lord put on his heart, because I know that he's a maverick for God. So I'm gonna let him talk about
it. Go for it, James. Go for it, man.
That's kind, Dr. Bushner. You're very, very kind. I appreciate it. And
what's up with this? What's up with this? We started calling James and Rupert, and now everybody's a doctor here. Come on.
Okay, James.
Well, I'm real shy. I'm real shy, so it's difficult for me to talk. But let me do the best that I can. Here's the deal. We're blessed with a great technology department. Honestly, a lot of things wouldn't be possible if we didn't have the manpower to accomplish it. I will say though, that technology probably is a key during this period of time. And I don't care what your technology department looks like. If you got a smartphone, you have enough to do something to communicate with your church and to stay connected at some level. A smartphone can accomplish that. So technology is becoming more accessible right now than it's ever been before. We came up with the idea, and I give God all credit. And I also listen to what some of the younger preachers say at this particular time. They're super creative. And one of the things my son shared with me, he's a young pastor here in Southeastern as well. He said, Dad, what about drive-in church? I said, yeah, drive-in church. Because as we know, for instance, Robert Schuller out of the Crystal Cathedral got started with a drive-in church, the old drive-in theater idea. The building God blessed us with is just laid out for drive-in church. We have a staircase that comes down out of the cafe right in the front, and it's right in front of the parking lot. We have a large parking lot all in one area where people can park facing the front of the building. And we said, here's what we can do. We can stand on the steps. It's just like a platform. We can bring our technology out. We can broadcast low band frequency, low frequency, whatever, on FM radio. And we can have people drive up, listen to the service on their radios inside of their cars while they look through their windshield and see us there speaking and preaching and singing. Well, Rupert and I don't sing, but the singers singing.
No, we don't.
So it's like a live service, but you're listening inside of your car on the FM station. And
so that way you were practicing the social distancing, right?
Yes. Social distancing, right? Because, the cars were separating people. They were just those that were in their cars. We told them, don't go out picking up big groups of people, no buses and all of that. We got to keep the numbers down in each car. But they came on in and they faced the building. And we even told them you can shout at this service by hitting your horns. And every time a good point was made or a singer would hit a good note, they start beeping their horns. And even at offering time, it was fun. Even at offering time, we said, turn your flashers on and roll your windows down. The deacons will come with long poled baskets so they don't have to get too close to you. And we got a good offering this Sabbath.
Yes, sir.
That helped us to be able to continue ministering to the community at large, because we have a food program that's even more important now for people who don't have enough food in our area. There is a low income neighborhood very close, and we're still able to take care of their needs because our members are able to still return their tithe and offering so that they can receive their blessing from God, and those that we service can still get the help that we love to give. And so that drive-in service was so good that a lot of the members have been hitting up Rupert Bushner, Dr. Bushner and I, and saying, listen, let's put that in our regular schedule. Even when stuff gets back to normal, let's do that again. That had a good vibe to it, a Holy Ghost vibe to it.
So even beyond the pandemic, your church members are wanting to have that drive-in church service, even when this thing is over.
Yes, sir. They want to put it on the regular schedule. They said, please, we've been getting texts. When this is over, please, let's plan this in our schedule. In fact, some people got happy, and those who had sunroof, I saw some standing up through their sunroof praising God. I mean, so.
So they got too excited. They opened up the sunroof and they were out there, right?
And Jose, here's something else that happened with this drive-in service idea. Being new in that community, you normally would send out invitations to your grand opening and all of that. But this actually gave us a more conspicuous entrance into that community because our parking lot was full. You would hear the horns beeping. There are people who walked by. So they had an opportunity to experience something that we could not have made up. If times were just normal, we would not have thought of this. But it was a great introduction to people in the community, knowing that we were there and having a chance to experience what we do. And we expect that next week, it's going to be so full, people will be parked on the grass and everywhere else. And we can't wait for next Sabbath. I want to go to sleep now and stay asleep until next Sabbath.
Question. How was it preaching to a whole bunch of cars with people in them? Because I'm wondering how did that go? Who preached, Rupert or James? Who preached?
Well, I can testify and tell you, Dr. Doggette preached a powerful prophetic word. It was off the chain. Really, literally, he had a handout and he had some practical things we could do but he preached the word. In fact, I was standing where I could see him, and he was sweating. I did take him a towel. I felt like one of those managers in the ring waiting for the bell to ring to, water him down and give him some water and wipe him down, but he wouldn't stop. And someone said, should we take him an umbrella? I said, well, I don't want to, get in the way. So I thought to take it, but then I said, let the Lord lead. But he did an awesome job in the sun. I mean, he preached the word. It was a powerful word, and the people were blessed. In fact, one of the things, statements that he made, when that is, because we're now in our building where we are, the word will be prophetic in that where we were renting, we had to be politically correct, not to say some of the things we could say, in our own building, because we were renting. You don't want to be in another person's house talking a certain way. And so the word was powerful. I want to say that again on behalf of my friend James. He preached the word, and the people were blessed. They were very responsive. The horns, in fact, some people said that were on the feed. Now we could hear good, but some of the people on the feed said when the honking of the horns took place, they couldn't hear. So we would recommend that they would save their applause or their honking after the sermon.
Yeah, that's
I'm getting some comments here. And this is Esther Pond. And she says, I am a member, and yes, it needs to happen all the time. It was amazing. All right. So
that's good.
I am just speechless of what to say at your creativity and what God is doing to you. Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this. You asked about what it was like preaching to cars. It is a little bit different. I have to say that it is a little bit different. Not only was it hot, and that wasn't a major problem, while I was doing the work of preaching, I did not feel faint or anything like that, but I did wet down my collar just a little bit, and my bald head was shining. But so it was hot. But I'll say what was strange a little bit was not being able to hear yourself. We didn't have monitors kicking back the sound when I would preach, so I couldn't really hear myself. And so on next Sabbath, we're going to try to have in-ear monitors so that we can hear our voices just a little bit better as we're at the microphone talking. And I don't know if we're going to ask the members not to honk the horn. I think that was part of the fun of it.
Yes, sir.
They start honking those horns and flashing the lights for offering and all that. I love it. It's a different language of worship, but it meant the same things, and we knew they were engaged because of the way they were responding.
Is it something that you would recommend to other pastors across North America?
Dr. Bushner, let me hit this one, and then you can pick it up. Absolutely. If your parking lot is situated so that can happen, it doesn't require much. I shared with one pastor today from North Carolina. He was asking a bit about how it was done, and he seemed to think that more was necessary. You need a transmitter that will allow you to do a low frequency broadcast. That broadcast only expands the distance of our parking lot. It's not going out a mile or 2 miles or 3 miles. You find an FM station there that doesn't have a radio station active on it, and you don't have to worry about the FCC regulations or anything because it's low band frequency that is just there on your parking lot, on your site. So you don't have to worry about much. You get that transmitter, and then you go for it. You simply go for it. And we had it ready on Friday. That was kind of late, because if it didn't work out, we would have been in a little trouble. We advertised before we had it ready, but we got that thing ready. It came in, I guess Amazon brought it in on Thursday evening or Friday. They tested it out, it worked, and God bless. Sometimes you have to just step into the waters. You got to step into the Red Sea before the waters will part. You got to step in sometimes. Give it a shot, because God is a good God who knows any and everything but failure. And when you're stepping out in his name and putting him to the test, I think he shows his best stuff. When you try God-sized things, God says, "Okay, I'm with it." So we're willing now to try anything God throws our way, because we know he can do anything but fail.
That's true. And and to piggyback on what he said, I talked to Ian, and I want to make this clear to those who are listening. As Dr. Doggette, James said, the transmitter, the receiver, and he said, then you need the cable, and then you need antenna. He said those are the three things you need: the antenna, and the cable and the transmitter receiver. You have those three things, you good to go. That's basically what Ian shared with me, because I had him on the phone with a pastor from Miami who was asking the same thing about what does he need. And so he was saying how it was shipped overnight, got it in one day. It came, he was able to connect it, he tested it. And he said, basically from 300 feet to 3 miles, you don't need to have any FCC compliance because you're less than 5 miles. When you go 5 miles and more, then you got to be in compliance with the FCC, as he mentioned. And so you're in good shape if you just do those three, get those three things, and you'll be all right. That's what he shared with me.
Okay, so quickly, you preached the word. People were able to come out. They were still distanced, so they could be okay and they could be healthy, and no one will get infected by somebody else. And you had a full house. People brought their offerings because the church has been relevant to them, and everyone had an awesome time. And besides that, that's not the only thing that you're doing. You're also feeding the community where the needs are. So I just love this church. Love this church. And Roger Hernandez is saying right here, Roger is saying one of the best churches anywhere in North America. And John Boston is saying 3 of my favorites. All right. So John, I don't consider myself worthy to be in the presence of these 2 men, but hey, I'm having an awesome time. I have a question here. How much was the investment? How much was the investment to do this type of service?
Well, I can tell you that the transmitter that we had to purchase, it was approximately $3,000.
Okay.
About $3,000, and well worth the investment. About 3,000.
Well, he said, and that's correct. He said the cable and the antenna is below 4. So, like he said, 3,000
plus the cable and antenna
was less than 4,000. That's what Ian said. Correct.
Is this something that you foresee doing now for as long as we're not able to meet physically in the same building? Is it happening every Sabbath?
That is absolutely right. There's nothing that happened this past Sabbath that would indicate it's not a good idea to do this. We're expecting a growing crowd, to be honest, and we're going to be meeting early this week to find more ways to connect with that crowd when they're there. At the same time, we're ministering to those who are in the parking lot in their cars. We're also broadcasting online. So those who are not comfortable even getting in their cars will still have the opportunity to experience church at their homes. To us, it was a win-win, and we're going to do it again. As a matter of fact, we're going to make sure that the newspaper in the city of Apopka is clear as to what we're doing, and we expect to have some media coverage on next week as well. So individuals who are yearning to have church, there will be one there. And we don't push the brand Seventh-day Adventist, but know this, these are 2 Seventh-day Adventist preachers you have online right now. And we're going to be preaching a message from our point of view. Our theology is going to be rendered with power, and people are going to be exposed to things they did not know while having a good time in the Lord. Because I got to tell you, our band knows what they're doing.
Yes,
and
sir.
our singers are absolutely blessed.
Man, I wish that I had a horn right here so I could honk, a million times, man. I wish I could honk a million times for you guys. This is awesome.
And let me say this, the beautiful thing about, again, the logistics of where the facility is and how it's laid out, even if it rains, we have an overpass where we can be under, while even if it rains, where the band is big enough for the band, the praise team, and we'll all have 6 feet in distance. We're able to be under the underpass and still share in the drive-in with the people in their cars with their wipers on, hearing the gospel on the radio station. So
even if it rains.
Even if it rains.
My Lord, my Lord, my Lord. Guys, this is spectacular. John Boston is saying low cost, high impact. And I hope that some of our pastors across North America are taking notes and are able to duplicate this in their context, because I think this is creative, this is awesome, and people are being blessed by it. So, gentlemen, I don't know if there is anything else that you'd like to add, but this has been amazing. Thank you so much. Anything else? A last word that you would like to add as we close?
I would just like to make an announcement and say this coming Sabbath, we have communion. And as the people are coming in, they'll get their little communion kit. The wine and the bread is in a little cup kit. They'll get that as they drive in, and instructions will be given how to, take it once we go to that part of the sermon after the message, and we'll take the emblem. So communion is this Sabbath, and we're going to be all right.
Hey, question quickly. Any baptisms coming up, man? Because I would love to see a baptism in a driving church too. So as soon as you have one, I would like to know how you're doing it, because I think this is awesome.
Well, with the coronavirus, I was just joking with my wife, telling her that what we'll do, we'll stand 6 feet away from the person and tell them we baptize in the name of the Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and say, dip, go under and come back up. You're clean.
All right. Hey, man, that's an idea. James, King James, anything else you want to add, my bro?
Well, I just want to say this, what we're doing, we're not trying to set this up as a model for anybody else, but I hope that others will at least have enough confidence to trust what God shares with them about how to accomplish the purposes of God at this particular time. If this will work where you are, by all means, try it, and we'll be glad to share with you what we've learned about it. And you might not make some of the mistakes that perhaps we might make as we attempt this. But whatever God gives you, trust that he's going to provide what's necessary to get it done. Do not withdraw from the game right now. Dig deep, trust that the creative God who made something out of nothing is going to give you what you need to make something out of this tough situation. Churches can do better than survive. They can thrive if the leader has enough faith to trust what God is speaking to him or her at this time. So everybody try something in the name of the Lord. And if we could help, we'll be more than glad to share what we've done and what has worked and what hasn't.
I receive it. And I, pastor who is watching us, church member, church leader, I pray God will on activity in your marriage, in your church, that you might to lead wisdom, with boldness, with power in this pandemic. I'm so to pastor. Tomorrow at 6:30, I will be talking to another pastor, two pastors who are doing awesome during this time. May our church remember that the gospel is ever increasing. The church is 19. Our buildings down. The church is alive. The church continues to move forward even when our buildings are closed. God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rupert. Praying for you, praying for your ministry. Thank you for what you're doing on behalf of Jesus, on behalf in your community at Patmos. God bless you. Everyone, see you tomorrow. Take care.
Thank you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Take care, brothers. Bye-bye.